We are recording and live.
Good evening and welcome. We'll be starting the meeting of the Newburyport Historical Commission in just a few moments. We're going to leave a few seconds for panelists and attendees to finish logging into the Zoom call. We do expect one more panelist, and looks like the attendees are nicely logged in. So they're here. So we'll start in just a few seconds. If I start, Caitlin, just keep a lookout, I guess. Well, in the see if I can see Alan and the attendees, right?
Yes, we'll do.
Yeah, we'll keep a lookout for him. Hopefully he'll join. Okay. We want to move along. So we're going to officially call this meeting of the Newburyport Historical Commission to an opening. This is the 26th of October, 2023. And please be aware that this meeting, like all city virtual meetings, is being recorded. We'll start with the roll call of the commissioners that are present here on the Zoom call. Andrew Bernhardt.
I'm here.
Okay, good. And this is also an audio check. Biff Baus.
I'm here.
All right, great. Joe Morgan.
Here.
Great. Chris Sawtell.
I'm here.
Yep, excellent. Now, Alan Marquis is not here yet, but we do have a quorum. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including myself. So we can start. We'll see if he joins or not. He's one of the two alternates. Absent are, well, for now, him and Ed Neumer, the other alternate, Christopher Fay and Mark Syndrome. Those are the absentees. We have Caitlin Sullivan running the meeting and Gretchen Joy. She here, yep, taking notes. So if we have a public hearing, public comment period, I'll review the instructions for using Zoom because we may not even have one. We'll see how that goes. But if we do, I'll review those. And I don't see any reason not to dive right in. We have 2 demolition delay applications to hear and review tonight. The first one on the agenda is number 16 54th Street. I believe that's Mr. Chris Crump is the applicant, and I think, okay, I see we have turned on your microphone, Chris. So you're not familiar to me, so since you may not have done this before with us, at least recently, let me just very quickly review what we're going to be doing here. The first decision that we'll need to make is whether or not your structure is historically significant. If we deem it to not be historically significant, then you're free to go. If it is historically significant, then we decide if it should be considered for preservation. And if we think it should be, then and only then will we review your demo plans. That's your plan for what you want to do to the structure. So until we get to that point, you don't need to give us a description of what you're going to tear down, build up, or any of that. What we're focusing on for the first phase of this is whether or not the structure is historically significant. So with that, I'll turn the floor over to you, Mr. Crump, to tell us about your structure and why you think it either is or isn't historically significant.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Chris Crump, CWC Design, representing my client and homeowner, Susan Harvey of 16 54th Street on Plum Island. So what I have in my presentation, I can't really see it, but it's very small on my screen.
Yeah, we can see Caitlin is screen sharing your presentation right now. It's on the second slide, which is the site plan.
Okay, it's just it's really tiny on my screen for some reason, but nonetheless. So the first slide is just to show you the site plan of the property. Proximity, it's right on the basin on the marsh side of the outer side of the peninsula, and what we are looking to do from the historic perspective, we have a second floor. On the second floor, there are 2 shed dormers that are existing right now, and we're looking to extend those two shed dormers on the second floor, the full length of the second floor, to create more headroom. Yeah, I can just barely see it, but that's an existing picture of the structure right now from the street side.
Excuse me, pardon the interruption,
Sure.
Chris. The what are you using, a small-ish device?
No,
Like
I'm using like a desktop.
Okay, that's
I'm
interesting.
not sure why it's coming up small, but
Okay, all right, you might be able.
wait, no, there, I got it now. Okay.
Great. Okay, sorry
Just,
for the interruption.
You learn a little new things every day. And so what you see here is the view from the street side, or just a little bit the left front side of the house, where you can see the shed dormer, the current shed dormer that's up there now. And the next slide, please, Caitlin. This is from the water side. And you can still again see the shed dormer, and then continuing on. On the rear side, you can start to see the shed dormer on the other side as well. So this structure, in my belief, the history that's implied here is that it was originally just a small cottage that was a small rectangle that you see in the gable end there. And over the years, they put on small additions all around the house, on the back side, on the front side. And so it's implied history, or it is history given through periods of additions written on this. Probably more of a, almost probably even, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a fishing cottage or shack that was updated along the way. And the next slide, please.
Is there any foundation or cellar or anything like that?
Under the original, under the rectangle of the main high ridge, there is a foundation. But other than that, the rest of it is on columns or piers.
Mhm.
And then, so you can see the shed dormer on the back side. And on this backside picture, you can also see there have been many modifications to the house over the years. And many of them, some of them have been as recent as probably, I want to say, let's see, 2017-ish. And like, for example, this one here, you can see that there was a window there that was shingled over. And it continue on. So here I kind of put some photos we found on Redfin and the Realtor website of when it was listed back in 2016, when the current owner, Susan, bought the property. And you can see the differences between then and now. And I kind of circled some of the things that have changed on these current pictures that I found from what it was in 2016. For example, the shed dormers are new. The window in that gable end over by the shed dormers has been removed. Some of the windows on the existing structure on the first floor have been removed. The roof lines on the side there is a new side entrance, or it's actually the front, that is the side that faces the road. So I guess you would call it the front. That has been reconstructed, and the new roof line over that. The next slide. And on this side, you can see the existing structure in 2016 and what the current is. And this is the portion that's also very different from what it was in 2016. You can see the shed dormer that's up on the second floor there. Some of the windows were removed on the left-hand side, and all the roof line and windows have been changed on the water side. So with that aspect of it, it seems like the only real historic part of this building that's still intact might be the main roof line, a little bit of the gable, and maybe the back portion of the house. But there have been so many modifications to this. I'll leave it to the board, obviously, but I have deep questions as to whether this is really still considered a historic home due to all the modifications that have been done over the years.
Right.
And then on just one more slide before we
Sure.
go any further, this is just the front of the house. This is the face facing the water, so you can see the different roof lines, a different style of windows, and the shed dormers and the entryway. All major modifications to what the original architecture and style of the house was back in the day.
Yep. Yes. Like many structures on Plum Island that we've seen that
Sure.
have this situation. Okay. Any board? Anyone have a question for Mr. Crump? Yeah, Chris, I see your hand gesturing.
Yeah, hi, this is Chris Sawtell here. What year was this structure originally built?
So on the assessor's card, it has it marked as 1940, around circa 1940.
Circa 1940. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yeah, probably what was there in 1940 to you, right. Who knows what that looked like?
Yeah.
Any other questions from the panelists? Okay. Any commentary on whether people, at this point, I think the chair would welcome either commentary and thoughts, or if someone would care to go ahead and make a motion that it's historically significant and we can take a vote on that, that would be all right as well.
I'll make a motion that the structure is historically significant.
Okay, that was Biff, right?
Correct.
Okay, is there a second?
I second that. Chris Sawtell seconds. It is historically significant.
Okay, very formal there, Chris. Okay, so the motion is that the structure is historically significant. So a yes vote means it's deemed historically significant, and we would then discuss whether it's considered for preservation. A no vote means it is not historically significant, and end of story. So in alphabetical order here, some went off the change, but anyway, Andrew Bernhardt.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry, that was a no, right?
No. Yeah.
Okay. Biff Baus.
Yes.
Okay. Joe Morgan.
No.
Okay, thank you. Chris Sawtell. Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry. The answer is yes.
Okay. Okay. Alan never did show up, right? Okay, so we're gonna eliminate him. Hang on a second. Okay. And the chair semi-reluctantly votes no. I think that this reminds me, well, let me just finish it. So I'll vote no. And what that means, let's see. So we've got 2 yes votes, insufficient number to pass the motion. So that means the motion, actually, the structure is not deemed historically significant. I'm just going to say, this reminds me very much of a structure that came up early in my tenure on the board, that it had it was listed, I'm not sure I don't think it had a Form B, but it was listed on the data sheets and all that as quite an old building. Went out to look at it, and I thought I was at the wrong address. It had been so heavily modified, you literally would never know it had somewhere deep within its bowels an old structure. This reminds me a little bit of that. In this case, it's not even as old. That one was like, 17 something. At any rate, I digress. So, Mr. Crump, what this means for you is that you may proceed. I don't know if you have any variances or anything like that to worry about, but you have, you're through with the Historical Commission.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome, and thanks for coming in.
All right, have a good night.
Thanks. Okay, moving right along, we have another matter, another demolition delay hearing. This is for 99 Ferry Road. I was interested to see this come up because a young man who went to school with my son's grandmother lived in that house, I believe, a number of years back, not the present occupant. So no need to recuse myself or anything like that. So I believe Ms. Mead, are you going to be, Ben Taylor, Ben, want you, could you, yes, you're on, let's see, yes, now you're unmuted on our end, and I think I just heard you. So are you going to be presenting, Ben?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
You don't mind me calling you Ben? You don't mind me referring to you as Ben, do you?
No problem.
Okay.
No problem at all. Yeah, so if we're all good to go, looks like the presentation's up on the screen. Just for your record, yep, I'm Ben Taylor. I'm an attorney at Mead, Tallerman and Costa, 30 Green Street in Newburyport, for your record. With me tonight is Scott Brown, the architect on the project. We're here on behalf of the owners and applicants of the property, David Riesler Bruce and Caroline Ogilvy. If we go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so this is a portion of the city we don't visit too often for demolition review, but in this case, according to the assessor records, the structure was originally built in 1879. There is no Form B for the structure, and it's also not in the district data sheets. The first historical map we were able to find is the 1924 assessor map. The Sanborn maps don't go that far down or that far north into this portion of the city. However, we also did pull the building jacket, and there have been quite a few more recent modifications to the structure, which we'll see in the existing photos in a few slides. But if we could move on to the next slide, please, Caitlin. And then also if we could zoom in on the red circle. Great. So yeah, maybe just a little bit more. Sorry about that. Thank you. So this is the 1924 assessor map. That is the actual parcel as it currently exists. It's a very large, long lot. I guess you call them rectangles appear to show two structures on the property. We believe the structure closest to Ferry Road is at least the existing structure in some form. I'm not sure if the rear structure was an outbuilding, if this was a farm type of property, maybe it was a barn or a carriage house or something like that, but the rear structure is no longer there. And if we can go to the next slide, please.
Is that 1.6 acres, Ben?
Yeah, they're about. I forget. I don't have it right in front of me.
There was a notation on that map I was looking at. That's
yeah.
sorry. Yeah, just go ahead.
Yeah, so here's the present day situation of the property. Obviously, the front of the lot has been more developed than what was shown in the 1924 map. And then also Briggs Avenue and those other streets came in a lot later in the late 1950s, early 1960s. Then finally, if you can go to the next slide, please. So here's the existing conditions photos of all sides of the property. You can see a lot of the modifications that we found in the building jacket, such as the dormers that were later added, the front left glass porch, as well as some other additions in the back of the structure. So that's all I have for right now. If the commissioners have any questions about our historical research on the property, but with that, I'm happy to turn it back over to the chair.
Okay, thank you, Ben. You said the assessor's record said 1879, I think. Is that what you said?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, make a note of that. Okay, any questions for Mr. Taylor from our panel? Mr. Sautel.
Hi. I noticed earlier in a presentation earlier that they said there was going to be 2 chimneys removed. I'm looking at the existing rear and I can see a chimney there. Where is the second chimney?
Hi, Chris. Yeah, so just to clarify, so that was actually from the building jacket of prior work that was done to the house. So at one point there were 2 additional chimneys that were removed. Actually, we go to slide 2 really quick, Caitlin, if you don't mind. Yeah, so these are past building permits that prior owners or whoever owned the property at that time pulled. So we go down to City Hall and see what's in the building files for this property. So that was a building permit issued in 2010. That was, and this is like a direct quote. We just copy and paste it in to remove 2 chimneys and open up 2 walls. So at some point there were again 2 additional chimneys that are no longer there. I hope that clarifies.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, thank you for the clarification. My next question was, I believe that the addition that's on the back, that's the question that's going to be of a new structure that's going to be built there. Was that it? Where there's a present chimney is what my question is.
Yeah, so that's correct. So if we, depending on how the historical significance votes go, we will be focusing on the back of the structure. So removing that structure triggers the partial roof line change, which is why we're here tonight. Actually, I know if Scott is on the call, Scott, feel free to chime in, but in assessing the structure, we didn't find enough indications that rear portion was, younger than 75 years old. So again, belt and suspenders. We're appearing in front of the commission tonight to go through the process. Sometimes there's additions on houses that have different types of foundation materials, or newer materials used in its construction, such as vinyl windows and things like that. So we didn't see enough of those that to sufficiently date it. So
Okay. Pardon, I'm sorry. Were you all set, Chris?
Yeah, I was going to say thank you very much for the clarification.
Caitlin,
no problem.
could you zoom in on the existing left rear corner? That's the middle bottom row there. Either this is a question for either Ben or Scott Brown. I just want, and it's not specifically related to historical significance, but it's a useful thing to know. Would I be correct to say that the structure, okay, you see the little one-story part, and it goes into the what looks like a more historical house there, where you see the brick foundation, right? Would I be correct to say that anything that old part, I say old, but the part where the brick foundation is, and you see the corner board and the gable end and so forth, the 2-story, 2.5 with the dormers, that is not changing at all. It's just that 1-story thing is going to, and the deck will come away, and you've got new construction, which we can discuss later. Is that correct?
Hi everyone. It's Scott Brown, the architect for the project. It is clear to me that this addition, which we need to remove in its entirety in order to execute what we want to do here, it's clear to me that it's pretty old. It's older than 75 years. But what I can't tell is whether it's original to the
Right.
1879 structure. Sometimes when I assess this stuff, one of the first things I do is I look at the foundations.
Mhm.
And kind of compare it to what I know was the original box, and the original box of this was an L shape. And you can see it, the back half of the L here that's that brick foundation that we see in that photo. Unfortunately, with this house, that foundation is like parged and painted in the basement, so I can't really match up the masonry with what I believe to be the original structure. The same thing with the floor joists are painted as well. They they appear to be sort of the same size as the front box, but I just don't have enough information to determine whether it was original. I do know that what we're seeing here in the photo, I believe a lot of this was reworked about 25 years ago. I guess there's a permit on record for that we saw on the first slide for the deck, dated 2001. And it appears to me kind of all of this work was, done at the same time.
Scott, my question, thank you for that. My question specifically was just that is the only demolition to what we're looking at in this picture, the deck and the 1-story addition and the 2.5, the bigger house there that's in the background,
Yep.
That is not being altered. Is that correct?
That is not being altered, no.
Okay, that's all I was asking at the time. All right,
So it's
thanks
almost like we're taking that back wall there, 2.5 stories, and just everything to our left, we're removing it.
Right. Okay, I suspected that, but I just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Any other questions from my brethren on the panel? Okay, I'm not hearing any. So would someone care to make a motion? We'll take a vote on whether or not the structure is historically significant.
I'll make a motion that 99 Ferry is an historical structure and should be considered for preservation.
Okay. So the motion isn't strictly just historically significant. Joe, you're saying it's historically significant and should be considered for preservation, correct?
That's right. Anticipating our next discussion. That's right.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Is that Biff?
Yes.
Okay. So just to make sure everyone is clear on what this means, that means that if a yes vote means that it's historically significant and we would like to consider preserving it, and therefore we would have the hearing for the demo plan review and so on. A no vote means you do not believe, well, you would deem it not historically significant or to be considered for preservation. It's a little odd. A no vote in this case, where it's got those two prongs, is a little odd, but I think we can figure this out. So, excuse me. Sorry about that. Andrew Bernhardt.
Yes.
Thank you. Biff Baus.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Sautel.
That's a yes.
Thank you. Again, oops. Mr. Marcus, not Marquis, not here, and the chair will agree and also vote yes. So, all right, Ben, I'm sure you know what that means. So it's historically significant and to be considered for preservation. So I'm sure you've got another phase of your presentation on the demo plan review. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Right, great. Thank you, Chairman. So if you just go to the next slide, I'll turn it over to Scott shortly. So again, here's just the site plan. So in the rear, you can see that, the rear portion that was just shown in the photo that's being removed. And then on the, the portion of that that's in the dotted outline, that is the footprint of the proposed addition. So with that, I am happy to turn it back over to Scott to go through the design.
Great. Thank you, Attorney Taylor. Again, for the record, Scott Brown, the architect for the project. As we had previously mentioned in kind of the first slide that, Attorney Taylor did a nice job of, revealing the sort of building permits that have been pulled for this project over time. There's been a lot of work to this done over quite a few years. And none of these renovations have really done much to improve the functionality of the house. So this, this project is really about providing my clients with a mudroom and some open family/living room space that is connected to what is a really great backyard. And this connection to the backyard is something that they don't currently have. So this is a rather large lot. It's very long. It's perhaps the largest lot that I've ever worked on in Newburyport, and somewhat refreshing in that sense, because it always seems like we're working in a shoebox. Yeah. All of our work, most of our work, is to the rear of the property. It's rather private, not very visible from the public way. We are doing a little bit of work to the front, and I will go over that in a second. So because it is a rather long property, rather large, it can handle sort of a long addition. And like I had previously stated, in order to do this addition that we're planning on, we do need to remove a portion of the structure that, is clear to me that it's older than 75 years old. Next slide, please.
Wait, before we go to the next slide, could I, sorry for the interruption, Scott. Sure. I'm confused about some of the notations on this site plan. If you could clarify, there's dashed lines. I see proposed deck and proposed addition. The dashed lines are bigger than that, so could you just maybe clarify?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. So to the north, plain north here, there's I can't remember what that street is, but there's sort of a series of abutters with abutters. To the south, plan south, is a property that's owned by the city of Newburyport, and this is, I think this is where the wellhead is located. Mm-hmm. So that dashed line that we're looking at there is a conservation restriction. It's noted there on the plan in order to protect the wellhead. So that's what we're seeing there. And the property is so long that the surveyor is only able to show a fraction of it on the lower half of the plan, and up there in the upper left hand corner shows the entirety of the property. and it's nearly 2 acres.
Okay, actually, that wasn't the line I was referring to. Caitlin, maybe you can zoom in a bit on just the area of this building. There you go. So the lines I was talking about is, you see the dashed lines, like right where it says proposed bulkhead, there's a
The
dashed
north of
line
the
there.
bulkhead.
Well, I don't know. So that
Right
dashed
there.
line, that's not where you're not building in there, right? Is that just
No,
showing
and I
a
think what the
setback
surveyor is indicating there is a paved area of the property.
I see. Oh, it could
We
be.
might be able, the next series of photos, we might be able to actually see what he's.
Okay, so the heavy line is the proposed addition.
Correct. Yeah, and you
Oh,
can.
okay.
I mean, that line type there is basically the same line type as, what's indicating the paved driveway. So that's what tells me that there's some pavement there, or it could be stone, not necessarily bituminous asphalt, but it could be stone pavers.
Okay, all right. Sorry for that. Go ahead.
And this project will need to go to the board. While we're looking at this project will need to go to the Board of Appeals, because the right side setback is pre-existing non-conforming, and we are extending that.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Next slide, please. So these are the existing photos of the house, and I think I'll start in the upper right-hand corner, and we'll go counterclockwise. So the existing photo in the upper right-hand corner, that's taken from the front left corner. And, the thing that immediately jumps out are those sort of dormers at the attic level. And those dormers were added in 2016. The house underwent, it seems like a house underwent a lot of renovations in 2016. And that's when those dormers were added. And this is well before our clients have acquired the house. A lower left-hand corner, this is what is referred to as in a 1986 permit. 1986 permit refers to this as an enclosure of a glass porch. And I'm not sure that structure there is original to the house. But this is one place, really the only place in the front of the house where we're proposing to sort of do any work, which I'll point out in a second. Moving to the left, another view of the front of the house. This is the only photo where in the back left there, you can begin to get a glimpse of, what is a barn / garage on the property. This is built in 1979. And all I can tell you about this is that it's clad in T111 siding. The next photo in the upper left-hand corner. This is from the right front corner perhaps on the abutting property. Again, you can see at the attic level a pretty extensive dormer with a very, very flat roof pitch. And this was added to the property in 2016. Photo number 4. Lower left-hand corner. This is the left side of the property. Perhaps taken with our back against the barn. In the bottom right there, you could see this sort of like a sun porch, which a lot of work was. Seems that this was enclosed in 1986. And off to the left there, this is that 1-story addition and deck, which we're proposing to remove. And you can see that a little bit more clearly in the next photo. Photo 5, again, the deck we're proposing to remove in that 1-story addition. And again, not planning to sort of really remove anything on the original box. And finally, the last photo number 6, directly from the rear, we see that chimney there. That chimney will be removed. I believe that this chimney is not original and was added at some point because there's a wood stove in that room currently. Our house is, there are vinyl replacement windows throughout the house. The siding is sort of a mix of wood clapboard and fiber cement board siding. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this next 4 slides are basically follow a format which you folks are probably very familiar with at this point in time. The drawings on the top are the existing conditions. The drawings on the bottom are the proposed elevation. So The only thing that we are doing to the front of the house is we're replacing these casement windows in this front left side room, sunroom. You know, these casement windows were probably put in, when they did work to this in about 1986, and it is time for them to be updated. So this is really the only work that we're doing on the front of the house. Since I don't think that this is original, it's got a very funny roof line. I think it's entirely appropriate to do something a little different there. So the windows that we're putting in there are going to be awnings with a fractional light pattern at the top. Next slide, please. So this is the left side elevation. You know, as you look at that, the house with your back against the barn. In the lower right-hand corner, you can see those windows that we're proposing to put in the sun porch. Again, really, that's the only thing that we're proposing to do on the original box. All to the left of that, we are removing that, single-story addition, building a new deck, adding a family room that's going to have a cathedral ceiling. That dormer that you see there is going to be part of the cathedral ceiling, bringing a lot of light into that space. And in between that box and the house is the mudroom entry, which, our clients currently don't have. Next slide, please. So this is a view from the back. Again, the top, that chimney is going to be removed. That single-story addition there, which we're showing with sidewall shingles, that'll be removed in its entirety. We have 2 windows on the existing box that we're trying to work around. There's one in the upper left-hand corner of the second floor that will remain intact. There is one on the second floor in the upper right-hand corner that we're going to have to leave it in more or less its same location, but put a shorter window in order to do what we want to do. So since this house has had sort of a lot of unsympathetic renovations over time, I think it's entirely appropriate for us to sort of do something on the back that's like a little bit different in character from the main box. Sometimes we try to make these additions look like they've always been there. Other times we try to make it look like it's something completely different, perhaps more modern. And with this particular project, we're taking kind of like a middle ground approach. It has traditional detail, but it's different detail from what's there on the box. We are going to change up the siding a little bit, going with a wider exposure. So it's going to be a little bit different, but I would not call this sort of a very modern designed addition. And next slide, please. And this is, the right side elevation. You can see sort of that very unsympathetic dormer that's done on the 3rd floor, lower right-hand corner. This is really, and this is our new addition. And this is really what I think is sort of what I consider the back side of the property. This is about 10 feet away from a fence line and really not visible at all. And with that, I think I'll hand it back to Attorney Taylor, who will close this out. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. By the way, just to chime in on that last point, if you have not had a chance to drive by this, I don't know if any of my colleagues have, but I'm familiar with that particular property. And it's not even the front, the side that faces the street. None of the photographs showed it, but from the street, it's not particularly well visible. It's sort of down a slope somewhat, and there's a lot of trees around there, partly because of that water department property that abuts it. It's like a woods, so it's not a very highly visible thing. So go ahead, Mr. Taylor, did you want to speak?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Scott. If you just go to the last slide. So I'm not going to reiterate or repeat too many of the points that Scott's already made. Again, we feel that the proposed addition is minor relative to the rest of the house as well as the neighborhood. Again, it's an extremely long lot where it can better accommodate this type of lateral addition. And also, as the chair just mentioned, it's a extremely wooded neighborhood, particularly with the undevelopable city land on 2 sides of the property, and also the really later era development to the left, or excuse me, the Briggs Avenue development to the left side of the property. So with that, again, we're happy to answer any questions the board may have, or excuse me, the commission may have about the design, and I'll turn it back over to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Before we go to, there will be a public comment period, but before we do that, any questions from my fellow panelists for either the architect or Mr. Taylor? Not seeing anything. Okay, fine. Then we'll have a public comment period. So what this means is if you are attending this Zoom call and you're in the public and would like to make a comment on this this application, simply use the Zoom control to raise your hand and whatever device you're using. And you will need to unmute yourself on your end after you hear us recognize you, and we'll unmute you on our end. If you happen to be on a telephone, it's *9 to raise or lower your hand, *6 to mute and unmute. Those just toggle back and forth. And as at any public comment period, start by please identifying yourself with your name and address, and try to keep your comments on the brief side and focused on our focus here is on the historical significance and any potential for adverse impact on historical values here for this property. So public comment period is open. We'll allow a few seconds for anyone that needs to raise their hand. By the way, as an aside, I see Alan Marquis is in there as an attendee. Alan, we'll have to get, it's kind of late, but I guess we can promote you into the panel at this point. He's one of our alternate members. So we'll have to get you to use the panelist Zoom thing in the future. Okay, not only do I not see any hands, I don't even see any outside attendees. So I will close the public comment period. Just make a note here that there were none. And we'll turn to our panel here. First, I'll just go around the board really quick. If someone has already said what you're thinking, then you can just say what he's or he should said. Let's see, at pretty much random here. I think I'll start with Mr. Biff Bouse. Any thoughts or comments, Biff, as to whether you think there's any adverse impact to what they want to do?
I don't see anything that's too alarming. I think whoever was the architect that made those extremely flat dormers should have a talking to or something. those are, in fact, if there was going to be anything done to the original box, it'd be great to see those either altered, removed, or some way updated. I think the massing of this home is already very unusual, and I think what's being done here does bring a little bit more symmetry to the home from that side, and I'm not seeing a tremendous value in that addition that we're not quite sure, what the age was. It feels like it's still there in the design. I kind of appreciate the massing there to approximate the old kind of addition. I don't. There's nothing extremely alarming to me about it, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Biff.
Thank you.
How about now, Alan? When did you hear the entire presentation for 99 Ferry Road?
I heard most of it, I would say.
Oh, okay.
All but
All
a few.
right. Well, not to be on the safe side, maybe we won't have you vote on this if you didn't hear everything, but if you have any thoughts, you're certainly welcome to comment.
I agree with Biff on the shed
Yep.
dormer on the side. I think that's just doesn't look,
Unf-
you
yeah,
know, looks like
unfortunate,
it's out
right?
of place, but
Yeah.
but I think the rest of the addition is pretty handsome. And it elongates the house and makes it seem just gives it a nice feel in
Yeah.
my opinion, and kind of respects the original house. So I think
Okay.
the property is very large, but yeah, anyway, I think it's pretty well done. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Alan Marquis speaking. He's the latest addition to the commission. He's one of our alternate members. Okay, Andrew, any thoughts or?
I guess just my little unease is just the length of the addition. How
I'm sorry, the what?
The length, how
Oh,
long
okay.
it is. And I guess, I mean, it's not enough for me to deny it, but I think it's, as other properties, you know, you keep on adding on, and at what point
Yeah.
do you stop? But
Right. Yeah, by the way, if not to try to, I'm not trying to change your mind or anything, but I will note if it might help ease your mind that I don't think anyone is even going to see it, at least from the road anyway,
Right.
because of the particular layout of not only the lot, but it's, like I said, it's on a slope, it's heavily wooded. So there is that anyway, but yeah, I know it does give it kind of a, well, it's long. Okay, how about Chris Sautel? Any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I have a few of them.
Uh-huh.
All good.
Okay.
First, I would like to say this is maybe my second meeting with Scott Brown, the architect. I love his work. He's very particular on things, how things are and how things are viewed and seen. And I applaud him for that. It's very, 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 very well done. I love his stuff. The only questions I had, and it was maybe a little bit of a concern, but maybe my own personal opinion, was the L that's on the back of the house. I would love to see that preferably preserved with the addition that's going on to the back. Only because the L, which I guess if I'm not mistaken, it's older than 75 years. It's an integral part of the house. I've seen Federalist houses that later built like an L on the back that we would never consider taking down today or demolishing for anything like that. And I think the L on the back is actually a part of an integral part of the original Greek Revival box of the original one. I know it's been modified. I know the dormers and whatnot, but I love the L on the back. I would love to be able to see the L preserved with the addition that's on the back too. I mean, it's very streamlined. It's very nice. So don't that's my thoughts. I would love to see the L preserved.
Mhm.
And I like the addition on the back. It's very streamlined. But one thing I do want to mention is that somebody has said this before during the commission, that although we can't see it, although it's not visible from the road, the house still knows that it's there. And just because we can't see it doesn't
Right.
necessarily mean it should happen. You know what I mean? That's my own personal thing. That's just a comment, but I like this design. Scott Brown does very, very, very good work, and this is great. That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chris. Before we move on, Scott, would you any comment on Chris's comments about that little L? Chris, and just to make sure I understand, you're talking about that small, like in the image that we're looking at now, the that little one-story piece that's to the left of the main structure. You're talking about saving that and
Yeah.
but doing what they
Yeah.
want to do to the left of it. Pretty
Yeah.
much. Is that okay?
Only because I've seen these on a lot of historic properties and older properties. A lot of times these were built as like an in-law addition where maybe like an older member would live or whatnot, and it was a small L or whatnot. There's one of my grandmother's house in Rye, New Hampshire. My mom has them on the back of a Federalist house on Market Street. And they were built as to complement, the original structure. And I mean, I don't know what the condition of it is. I don't know anything much beyond that other than just seeing it in itself. That's all.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the clarification. Before I move on, Mr. Brown, would you have any comment to
Yeah,
that?
sure. Well, thank you for your comments, Mr. Sotel. It's been a long time. We've been had this on the boards for quite a while, and I do believe that some of our earlier versions were trying to work with what was there. And most anything can be saved if you throw enough money at it, and this could certainly be saved. But I think one of our big concerns early on was the condition of the foundation of that. We're putting a new addition would be putting a new addition right next to it. And I think if my memory serves me correctly, I was a little, I think the foundation of this, at least from the outside, didn't look like it was nearly as good as that of the main box. So that was a concern of mine. But in the beginning, we did try to work with it because, I think anytime you can avoid going to the historic commission, it's not a bad thing. And we just, it's just one of those things. We just sort of took a look in the mirror and said, what are we doing here? And, this thing, I just didn't think it was, kind of worth preserving. It didn't have significant value to me to really fight for it. So, we moved on and decided that, it would just be best for the project to remove it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask another question?
Sure.
Is this L that's on the back? What sort of foundation is on? Is it like a crawl space, or is it?
No, it's a full. It's a full height basement,
Yeah.
like the rest of the basement.
Yeah.
And I did say earlier on in our presentation that I couldn't discern whether the condition of the foundation was, the age of the foundation was the same age as the original box. And actually, if we zoom in right there, we might even, it looks like it's even parged to me.
Yeah.
And on the inside, it's clearly a rubble wall.
Yeah.
You see that gray foundation right there. So, that indicates to me that, something about it is very, very different. But on the inside, it's also parged, and it's a rubble wall, which tells me that, it's probably 19th century. So
now when you say rubble wall, is it brick like I could see the rest of the main box, or is it?
Well, I mean, all of these houses of this age, they were rubble wall to a certain height. And then it was masonry for aesthetics up from that. So,
okay,
even this brick that we're seeing there probably extends below. This house actually sits up pretty high up out of the ground for its age. But that brick that we're seeing there probably extends below the grade, maybe 3 or 4 courses, and then it becomes a rubble wall that is much thicker.
I just have
a house of this age.
All right, I just have one more question, and this is strictly out of curiosity. Looking at this photograph right now, the back part of it where there's a roof change and a bump out. Just out of curiosity, was that an addition that was put on once upon a time, or was that? Do you think that was part of the main box?
Out of my curiosity. 100% addition, and I believe all of that right there that's less than 25 years old.
Really?
I think that's all part of the 2001, renovation to this back of this house, which included the deck.
Wow. Okay. I was just curious. But thank you very much for the clarification.
Okay, and thank you, Chris. Let's see, Joe Morgan, how about your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief. I don't really have much original to say here. I kind of agree with the earlier comments. I don't actually think the house is really that historically significant. I mean, it passes the the age test, but I mean, in terms of its, any kind of stylistic or characteristic features that might give it historical interest, I don't think there's much to preserve. And I think the previous designers pretty much destroyed possibly whatever might have been of interest. As Scott Brown has already spoken about, I think that the addition is generally within the envelope conditions suggested by the Secretary of the Interior standards for subordination. I think it is subordinate. But other than that, I just don't think there's much to be said about the structure. And I think you can do pretty much wherever you want to it, especially in the rear where, it reaches out pretty much invisibly from the street. You can't really, you really see it from the street. Okay, so that's all.
Okay, Joe, to sum that up, it sounds like you're saying you would not see any adverse impact to the historical values here.
Not at all.
Yeah, especially for what they want to do, and especially beyond the damage that's already been done by some of the prior changes, right? Okay, who have I missed? Did it see Joe, Chris, Biff, Andrew? And I think I pretty much got everybody. Okay. Yeah, my own comments have pretty much been covered. I really can't add anything. If enough people felt strongly enough about that small middle section, it's not out of the question to do a field visit. I'm not sure this quite rises to that necessity. So at this point, I think we can, the next motion that we need to handle is, unless someone wants to propose a field visit, that would be one thing someone could suggest. Alternately, there could be a motion that the structure is preferably preserved, to which a yes vote would mean that the demo delay is imposed, although we could accept the plans. If the structure is not preferably preserved, then of course we don't need there is no demo delay. So would someone care to make a motion of one of those varieties?
I make a motion that it's preferably preserved. Andrew.
Okay, thank you, Andrew Bernhardt.
And is there a second?
Joe. Okay, Joe. Second. Okay, thank you, Joe. Okay, well, Mr. Bernhardt, how do you vote on your motion?
Yes.
Okay, and again, yes vote meaning that it is preferably preserved. Demo delay is imposed. Biff Baus?
Yes.
Thank you. Joe Morgan?
No.
Okay. Chris Sautel?
Yes.
Okay. Alan, I'm going to have you abstain for now because we're not sure you were here for the entire presentation, but the chair will vote. I'm going to vote yes, and we'll take it to another motion. Would someone like to make a motion that the applicant's plans are acceptable, and although it is preferably preserved and a demolition delay has been imposed, that what they plan to do is all right, does not impose a significant adverse impact on historical values, and they may proceed? Is there such a motion?
I will make such a motion.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Is there a second?
I'll second that. There's Biff.
Okay, thank you, Biff. Okay, Andrew, your vote on that one?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Biff, your vote?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Morgan?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the motion, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. The motion is that the applicant's plans are acceptable and that they don't create a significant adverse impact, and they may proceed?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. Chris Sautel?
I will reluctantly say yes.
Okay. There's no way of notating that, so it's just a yes. And the chair is a yes too. And I understand your reluctance, Chris, but I think we're pretty much the general feeling is that there's certain I would sum it up by saying that Mr. Scott's design isn't going to damage anything more than it's already been damaged in this particular case.
Well, yeah, but we do have a centerpiece that
Yeah,
I wanted to look a little closer, but you know what? I overall it is a good design.
Yeah.
Considering everything else that's gone on. So
exactly. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so what that means, I think you know what that means, Mr. Taylor and Mr. Brown, that the demolition delay existed for a few minutes, and you can go and get or go to the ZBA. I think you need for your for that particular variance, but or whatever it is that
Special permit for non-conformities.
yeah, that. Thank you very much. That and you're free to go. And thanks for
Great.
coming in and presenting for us.
Great. Thank you all for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, so we just have a couple items of general business we can go through relatively quickly. There was a piece of correspondence. The first one is kind of significant. You might remember 344 Merrimack Street. This was, they wanted a preservation restriction. They had a large lot, 2-family made to 1-family. They wanted to build another thing on the lot to keep it 2-family. In exchange, they were doing a preservation restriction. So well, I won't go through the whole history of the thing, but they agreed to that. They also agreed to make some significant improvements to the structure to bring it to a condition where it was worthy of a preservation restriction in the first place. That was 344 Merrimack. The Mass Historical Commission has signed off on their preservation restrictions, so that one is all set, at least that part of it, the part that we were involved in. There was also a communication from Mass Historical Commission about the fiscal year 24 survey and planning grant cycle announcement, which is my annual reminder. Let's see if Andrew Port knocking on your door. You know, this is something that that particular thing has been on your back burner. I think it may have slid off and is in the dust behind the stove somewhere at this point. That grant application to pick up some of the properties that the last survey of Newburyport was done in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. It's now like 40 years, so it wouldn't hurt to go look at some of the properties that may have been that have now aged into or just may have been missed for whatever reason. This property at on Plummer, what street was that? Ferry Road. That probably should have been listed on the, but they didn't go out. They probably didn't go out to that north side of town back then. So anyway, I'll talk to Andy separately about that. And I have some updates very quickly though. Joe Morgan, are they renewing your membership in the commission? Is that progressing?
Search me.
All right, so I'll make a note here to needs follow up. I'll follow up on that, Joe, and see what's going on with that. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
And I'll let you know if there's anything you need to do at this point. It's on the one hand, I think Mayor Reardon has done a great job supporting these public commissions and stuff. He's really, I'm almost shocked that we have a full 7 members plus the alternates and all that. I think that's largely his publicity and all that good stuff, but it's not really on him, but the way the city manages these memberships and who's coming on, who's going off, who needs to be renewed, who needs to, be re-signed up for whatever. It's not perfect. Just
my assumption, Chair, is that if no one has contacted me, then my main concern has been, am I still, certified?
Yeah, you're still legal.
You're still legal. Exactly. Until someone says that I'm not, then I assume that I legally am still performing my part here. So that was my only previous concern.
Okay. Well, might get a midnight knock on the door. Or better yet, a no-knock
Well,
raid. Right?
Halloween is coming, so who
There you
knows?
go. Okay, moving right along. I know folks are sensitive to the length of these meetings. Did you see, I hope you did, look at my draft memo that I want to send to Chuck Griffin and his lawyer about the draft preservation restriction. You might recall, if you were here a meeting or two ago, we formed a little subgroup, little working group of myself, Mr. Morgan, and Mr. Syndrome. And we had a couple of conversations. We pretty much were all three of pretty much the same mind. And I think the same mind as the rest of the board about that preservation restriction. It was closer to conforming to the standard, but had the main problem had to do with in lieu of the standard verbiage about what is a major and minor change and what needs to be reviewed and what's not, and that kind of thing. It had a very extensive list of things not protected. It just was not acceptable to the commission. At least that's how I saw it. So hopefully you saw the memo. I just wanted to get to see if anyone on the board objected to anything I said in there before I send that off. I see. I think it's hard to tell. Is that Chris, I think, shaking his head no. Okay, I think Biff shook his head no. Now he's shaking his head yes. Oh, Andrew says no. Joe, you were on that subgroup. Did it pretty much capture what we agreed between the three of us and the rest
Yes,
of the board?
sir. Yes.
Okay, excellent. And thank you. What I did, you might have noticed, I actually, the points that you mentioned that were missing, the paragraph, this and that, I actually went through and gave it the standard numbers to just help Jeff Roloff's, find that, because, there's no reason why those shouldn't be in there. That's just an easy thing to fix.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, so that's that. Quick note, the ZBA heard what was deemed a minor, what they call minor modification for the plans of 22 Market Street. That's you might recall on Market Street, there were these two old houses with a little kind of weird bridge between them. Yeah, I see Chris is
Yes,
gesturing.
yes.
So they had agreed to restore the windows. Now they want to replace them. So I attended the meeting, and my public comment was twofold. It was that's not what I would call a minor modification, but the other thing I said was the windows they were proposing to using were very nice windows, and I didn't. Given that it was a commercial use, that I sort of understand they are concerned about having these old style sash that when you lift it up you got to twiggle a doohickey to get it to stay up and so on. Supposedly one of the contractors lifted up a window, and when he let go it crashed down and cracked one of the lights, which, well, doesn't say much for his knowledge of old buildings, but that's beside the point. So anyway, I'm just mentioning it's up to the ZBA, they may ask us to take a look at that. I don't know if they will or will not, but they may have in fact, I think, and maybe Andy, you can clarify this, I think they asked the applicant to bring it back to us to take a look at what they want to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think given the fact that this was an essential component, essentially, or a core component of what was approved originally, they felt that they wanted to hear back from the historical commission. Obviously, one might assume the historical commission would still recommend preservation of the windows, but as the chair pointed out, there were some questions about whether or not that was technically feasible, so to speak, whether or not essentially the windows needed to be screwed shut, or whether or not there was another way of making them operable and safe. So for that reason, I guess they wanted to hear from you, the sort of, our experts, historical commission, before making any determination on it.
Okay, so and this might be up your alley, particularly I'm thinking of you, Chris, that if any of you know of a mechanism that will hold the sash up without the user making some positive action, like for example, I know on my old windows, as you lift the sash up, the little catch is spring loaded so that it will pop in and hold the sash up at least so it won't come crashing down, at least not more than a few inches, depending on how many notches you've got and where it is and all that. And I think there are other ones that it's sort of a cam that's spring loaded. And so the window will be held up anywhere it is. And to lower it, you just kind of take the pressure off the little cam thing and you can lower the window. So anyway, I'd like to, if and when they do come to us, and I think they are planning to come to us in a couple of weeks, it'd be great if we could show them that, some of these things that might make it possible for them to do a restoration rather than a replacement. Yeah, Chris, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I grew up around these old houses with the old windows, and I've had my fingers smashed a few times.
Right.
There are actually things now that are spring loaded, as you said, that when the window goes up, there's a piece that comes out that prevents the window from falling. They're plastic. You screw them in. It's like such an easy fix.
Okay.
To say that we have to replace the windows because this happens is ludicrous. You can get these things
Okay.
that actually provide a safety mechanism that don't.
Right. Okay, I suspected so. So that's good. So we'll talk about it then. We don't need to go into it now. And so just think about that, and also think about how you guys would feel about storm windows, because energy efficiency may also be an issue. What?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry for.
That's all right.
I'm having my windows replaced in my house right now with 12 or 12 windows made by Brosco that are historically correct to my house.
Right.
They make a lot of windows right now. The storm windows are actually built into the frame of the windows right now.
So when you lift
You
the
don't
sash,
actually have to have the storm window. It's actually built into the window.
I might come by and take a look at that.
Please do. Please do.
Okay.
And,
All right.
and
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one
Yep.
more question, if you don't mind me asking. 22 Market. What is the house, the Georgian house has the gambrel roof that has just the sheathing exposed for the last year? Do we have a status of that house? I'm kind of wondering about that one.
Well, that's the building they're working on. I don't have a good answer to that. Andy, can you, or Caitlin, do you know what's going on with that at the moment?
The physical improvements, I mean?
Well, like it's been kind of ripped open for a while.
Yeah. I mean,
I think he's just
actually have the
wondering, like,
answer on that one. It's maybe that it's possible that Jennifer's already had some discussions about that. I don't know whether Caitlin does, but my assumption is we'd have to follow up with the building commissioner, the building commissioner and Jennifer, just to verify, where they are and why, to the concern here, where any gaps are in there, what's going on.
Okay.
So we don't typically get, generically speaking, we're not always involved with the construction side of
Right.
things,
Okay.
except where Jennifer might be a zoning administrator verifying compliance with ordinances. If it's something about not protecting the structure, which, does go back to some of our ordinance provisions, then we'd have to check with her, I think, and Greg on that. Caitlin, I'm assuming you haven't had any detailed discussions on that issue either at that particular location.
No, I have not.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we can check on that tomorrow, I guess, but I don't know off the top of our head.
Okay. Short answer, Chris. We don't have a good answer for you right now.
Is the reason why I was asking for this, children that go on the same bus as my children, their parents they're abutters right in back of this house. We went there one time. I actually took a look. There's a wide open foundation with no guards around it. There are doors wide open. There's no Tyvek on the house, and the windows and doors are taken out of it. I know through experience because of my house, and I actually had Tyvek on it, that of what damage it does to the house. And what I'm actually concerned about, maybe it's maybe going a little far, but I think when it comes time, then I say, this house is rotted, we have to take it down because it hasn't been covered properly, or the windows covered properly, or the doorways or anything else properly for well over a year now. That's just a concern.
That's not a, that's not an unreasonable concern, Chris. Caitlin, do you think you could ask Jennifer if she knows anything about that? Because I think that's a legitimate concern that, Andy, you might have heard this referred to as demolition by neglect,
Yeah, and that came up actually, at least with one of the structures repeatedly on High Street. We don't have to go into the details on others, but that question's come up before on a few other structures. I think one on Federal Street, I think as well came up.
Yeah.
Similar
Yeah,
question about.
and that is kind of a kind of a nice historic house that we'd really hate to see get lost.
There are some limited provisions in our ordinances that deal with that, but of course, we'd have to confirm some details and make sure that notice has been given. I think at one point, I remember on a property on High Street, we gave notice to that. You know, we flagged that as an issue, and I'd asked that notice to be given out. We gave notice, and the property owner expressed some frustration that we had notified them, and I guess I think it would have been the mortgage company that was holding the property, because they had been, you know, aware of it, but not as a property owner, not doing anything for a while. And they expressed some frustration that we had notified, you know, both the mortgage company and themselves about the issue, but the roof had been exposed for some time, and when, you know, was probably leading to the same demolition by neglect. So we were flagging it as something under the ordinance that needed to be looked at.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'd hate to see that one fall through the cracks. Okay. Last one, I'll just mention, we've been talking on and off about going to live meetings. Caitlin and I had a discussion about this before tonight's meeting. So I think we're not there yet, apparently, as Andy and Caitlin both are well aware, and actually myself too, for the meetings that don't take place in the council chambers, or where they have kind of a permanent or semi-permanent setup, it's kind of dodgy, put it best. In fact, I think during the public comment period at the ZBA meeting, they had trouble with my audio briefly, but they got that worked out. So things like that. So not quite ready for prime time yet, but Andy, I think there is interest both on the part of applicants and us to, you know, get together at some point. So, and
yeah, thank you. You know, we have that raised a couple of times.
Caitlin explained.
Been hot on the issue of getting better equipment for some of these meeting spaces, the reasons that the chair just mentioned. And so I can't motivate that any faster through the IT end of the city, but should that be addressed sooner, which I hope, then we can say, hey, there's better equipment. You won't have issues with the audience and yourselves hearing each other. So
yeah. Would it help if I threw my enormous influence behind that?
I mean, Glenn, you know, that's great. I mean, just frankly, as board members and certainly as chairs, you know, each board member may have a different take about the importance of having remote access or in person and so forth. But definitely, if you want to let the mayor and his chief of staff, Andrew, know that you've, you know, I realize that you've attended that meeting, so you saw the issue there. We've seen it, Caitlin can chime in as well, but we've seen it, the technical issues repeatedly. So we're trying to get away from the temporary Band-Aid equipment we got right after the pandemic and get to permanent equipment. But the bandwidth or prioritization of getting that done, you know, it keeps getting kicked down the road a little bit.
So,
so if you have any interest in getting better equipment so we can get back in person, certainly letting the mayor's office know that it's priority would be, you know, helpful. Yeah.
Okay, very good. I'll make a note of that. Okay, the only thing left is approval of, unless someone raises a hand to have something else they want to say, we need to approve the minutes of the 14th of September. Hopefully you read either version of Gretchen's minutes. Alan, were you at that meeting of the 14th? I think, was that your first one that you attended?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so you're permitted to vote on this then. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve,
Andrew.
All right. Well, okay. Tell you what, Joe. I heard Joe first. Andrew, I'll put you down as a second. Okay. Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Your vote, Andrew.
Yes.
Okay. Biff Bouse.
Yes.
Thanks. Joe Morgan.
yes.
Thank you. Chris Sautel. Oh, you were out. You were enjoying some concert or something. Yes, I remember now.
But to Peter Gabriel.
Okay. Don't gloat over it. Okay, Alan Marquis.
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes as well. Thank you, Gretchen. And is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
A motion to adjourn, Andrew.
Okay, thank you. Is it seconded?
I'll second it. Chris Sautel seconds.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to save a few seconds. I'll just say is there any objection to adjourning? If I hear no nays or any objections, okay, it is accepted unanimously that we have passed the motion to adjourn. Hopefully that's legal. I think in this case,
Yes, anyway.
okay. If they can do it in Congress, right? Unanimous consent. Okay, so we're adjourned. Thank you very much once again, and thank you for your attention and all your great thoughts. It's clear to me that you guys are paying attention and you care, which is all anyone could ask for. So thanks again, and have a good night.
Take
Good night,
care,
guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
Good night, everybody.
John.
Thank you, Chair.
Good night.